We are back with Wake Up Sierra Leone 2021 recap edition. Our quote for today says, "Peace is the most important tool for development anyone can have." And it comes from the late Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa. In today's edition, we are looking at the most heated arguments we've had on the show. I will be reviewing interviews with some top officials in the government.
Yes, there are some days when guests feel very strongly about the issues and their position we discuss in the studio and almost go into blows. But we are glad it never came to that in our studios. And well, we fought and we'll continue to fight with words only. Nice words.
Yeah.
If I might
Jojo
add.
and don't fight.
Exactly. Jojo, yeah. Not war.
Not war, yeah.
So we would start with the two national publicity secretaries of the two major political parties, that's the SLPP and the APC, retired Lieutenant Leema and Sidi Tunis, on the issue of the Koinadugu elections. Let's take a look.
Like you've mentioned in even the new press conference, like they said, the elections were full of inconsistencies. So it goes to say by implications that in the first place, the atmosphere were not conducive, or certain people were put in disadvantaged positions. And when those atmosphere exists in any electoral environment, then it means that such elections needs an overhaul or needs to be reviewed, especially in areas where polling agents were beaten and driven out of those polling stations because of the absence of police. All thugs overpowered the police presence, and as a result of that, they got away with so many other things that disadvantage other candidates in the process. And so in that light, we have thought it fit, looking at what we have with regards what the APC have, concomitant with what obtained in the security, in the electoral environment. As a party, we've come together and we've presented our findings together, and we've sent it to NEC, taking a position on that.
And the expectation is, if you agree with me to say the elections were full of violence and irregularities, why not just call to nullify the entire electioneering process, as opposed to say we accept one, let's nullify the other?
Well, where we won, of course, it was clear that there is no contention. That area was secured. We are saying areas that were not secured, where people were put in a disadvantaged positions. That is what we are calling for.
Quickly, Fabian, before we move to Sidi, Mr. Minister, you some 6 days ago, when the results were announced, on your Facebook page, you wrote, "Congratulations, APC Chair, and congratulations, SLPP Councillor Ward 155 Koinadugu District. We lost the battle and won the war." How did sudden change? Well,
fine. This is not, when we went at the Tallying Center, initially I told you I was not on the ground. We went at the Tallying Center. Of course, you have to follow procedure. We were told by the electoral officers, especially the commissioner, that they are going to continue tallying what obtains in Koinadugu, because the environment was not secure. That is why they extended the process in Freetown. So we went there. It was a continuous process. So they told us they will tally the results and call provisional results. They will print out and give the results to us, and we would have to compare with whatever we have. And if we feel dissatisfied, we will write. We'll raise the issue and even write. So they will look into the issue. If what they have done is still consistent with what obtained, then they will stand their grounds. If there is any reason to alter based on what we have sent to them, then they will look into all of those. So I strictly follow that. And I also, because I was the team lead of us who went to observe the process, so I did my best to even restrain some of my members who were a little impulsive as a result of things they were not happy about. I said, no, we have been given the ground rules and let us live by that. So at some point, in fact, there was an issue that the Honorable I took along raised. At that moment, I went outside. But when I came back, I met him furious. I was able to calm him down when I got the understanding from the NEC officials. And of course, we allowed the process to move on. That is not to say we do not have issues. So if after the entire process we've come back, the Secretary General, who was on the ground, because that is his own district, and also Honorable Amara Kalong, who is also the Deputy Minister of Political Affairs, where they were all on the ground and were able to put their findings together based on what actually happened on the ground, and they have been able to put that findings together. We'll send that to NEC. So that is our position until NEC say otherwise, and then we consider the next option that will be available to us.
Tunis, the same applies to you. It makes absolutely no sense to say the elections had all those irregularities and then you choose to accept the one result that favors you and request for nullification of the other that doesn't favor you. Why not just say, let's cancel all the elections?
Well, in the first place, we have asked for no nullification of any result. And also, we did not lose any of those elections. Let us be very clear on those two. What we asked for is to correct and amend the blatant malpractice that we all saw. One that has been talked about by even the observers, and that is the changing of figures from 049 to 149 that gave the SLPP councillor 7 votes victory. Had it not been for that change, there is no way he could have won or he could have been declared winner by NEC. And that blatant malpractice happened in the full view of everybody who was at the Tally Center. They were all there, they saw it, and the APC raised it right at the Tally Center. NEC agreed, but we are stunned that the amendment was not made right there and then. And you saw everybody, you know, raise the same issue, and we have been talking about it repeatedly. The only reason why we are here is because of that. I mean, we all saw the immediate post-election analysis. There is no question that in few polling stations we had issues. There were challenges. But let us also not forget that elections itself is a process. And we have laws that guide NEC as to how, you know, they go about elections process. If NEC felt that whatever happened in one or two stations would have, you know, tilted the entire outcome of the elections result, I'm pretty sure they would have done the right thing by nullifying. But if they felt that whatever happened in those few stations would have no impact or would not change the outcome of the election, why would anybody ask for nullification? We did not ask for nullification. We just want to ensure that our elections process is credible, our elections process has integrity, so that we will all continue to have confidence in the institution that has been charged with the responsibility by law
and that is
to be in charge of the elections process.
Isn't that what NEC has done already, you know, by announcing, certifying the results and announcing the results and assuring political parties that they will investigate whatever malpractice or allegations of, you know, irregularities that happened during the process? That is what they have done. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that is also why we wrote and brought to their attention, you know, the malpractice that happened at the Tally Center. The fact of the matter is, yes, when it happened, we raised it, but they still went ahead and announced the provisional result. So we wrote... Of which year we are part of? We tried to, you know, we asked them not to announce. But we are part of the process. Oh, of course, we were. So that certified the whole process? No, that is why we wrote. Even before the final results came out, we wrote to the Chief Electoral Commissioner, bringing to his attention these irregularities. Whether, in fact, he saw the letter before he put out the final result, that we don't know. But the fact of the matter is, we wrote to him, we submitted the evidences, we called a press conference, and also we have written letters to other institutions. We even told them that we will go to court if the amendments were not made, because that is what the law says, you know.
And Tunis, why do you think NEC would ignore all your concerns and still go ahead with announcing the results also that we have observers new mentioning some of the irregularities, why would NEC still proceed to announce that result?
And that is what we all need to find out. I mean, for us, this is not just about APC. This is about elections credibility and integrity. And that is what we all need to find out as Sierra Leoneans. Why would NEC ignore everybody, the APC, the observers, with all the evidences, and still decide to go ahead with the announcement, even where the issues were very, very much clear? And that is where we all need to find out. And if, in fact, you know, the whole idea is blatant and deliberate, then actions need to be taken. I mean, Leema mentioned about the issue of disruption in the whole tally process in Kabbalah. It is the same reason why the tallying was moved from Kabbalah to even Freetown. Somebody was caught trying to change figures 4 times in favor of the SLPP. And he was caught on all the occasions, and the amendments were made. You know, that is what led to the fracas that, you know, moved the whole process to Freetown. And then when we came to Freetown, when we came to Freetown, do not disrupt me, Leema, I'm talking. When you were talking, I was quiet.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. And when the process moved to Freetown, it is the same issue. You know, why
But you attended the tallying process.
Yes.
You were part of the process.
That is why we picked it up. If we were not there, we wouldn't have picked it up. And when we picked it up, we raised it. The question now is, why the difference? In Kabbalah, the changes were made right there and then. Why did they refuse to do the amendments in Freetown?
Okay, gentlemen, we'll be coming back to you shortly to continue the discussion. We're trying to have NEC into this discussion as well. Hopefully, we'll have them on the telephone line to react to some of the issues, the concerns raised there. But the National Elections Watch, where the monitors of the election, they monitored the whole process and held the press conference. Let's take a look quickly on some of their findings, then we'll continue the discussion.
APC reported that they have 82 votes, SLPP 49. NEC cross-checked their RF form, and it was very clear that SLPP had 49. But sadly, you know, the figure that NEC entered into the system for SLPP was 149. The APC appealed to NEC to correct this discrepancy. NEC went ahead to read the provisional result. Commissioner Edmond Alpha told the APC that they will go ahead to read the provisional result, and if they have any problems, they can take it further.
That was one of the observers of the elections in Koenadugu district. And the whole issue about irregularities, the observers are complaining. Their reports clearly says there were irregularities. The SLPP are complaining irregularities. APC, I think for a very long time, this is one moment when you are in agreement with a lot of things about irregularities in election. Depends on who should say what. But is it about winning at all costs? I'll start with you, Leema. Is it because you did not win the chairmanship election and you're satisfied, like Phoebe asked, you're satisfied with the other election but not satisfied with the chairmanship election?
Well, it's about really trying to taint a public institution that is very critical to the survival of the state that we are concerned about.
You're concerned about NEC?
Yes. If one political party is trying to taint an institution that has been responsible for the transition, democratic transition we've enjoyed in this country against all odds, they've stood tall. And one political party is trying to taint them in a process that has validated them as winners, and they are trying to taint them in a particular one that did not go into their favor, trying to blackmail an institution as if they are working in favor of government. As a party, we are responsible enough. We have worked assiduously to preserve the democracy that we enjoy today, and we want to continue in the preservation of that democratic
So your own
process.
concern about irregularities
so
is not from NEC. It's from the opposition APC.
So what we want to look at is when APC is trying to justify their own act of violence and disadvantaging people, and by such means manipulating results, and now they want that fictitious results to go in and further continue to cause disadvantage for people, thereby trying to blackmail public institutions that is very critical to our national security. We are of concerns that we have to look into those issues that they've raised and that we have raised as well. That is very clear. And when he talks about pieces of evidence, it was quite clear when they took talks. Even at the final rally, their big guns were there together with their talks. And the unfortunate part of all of this is when they even placed a polling station closer to their office, which gave rise to their talks to beat people in the full view of the public. But
New is also saying, senior members of the government, you mentioned earlier that the Deputy Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Secretary General of your party was on ground.
Yes.
The Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs was on ground. The Minister of Youth is named.
They are indigents of Koinadugu district.
The APC might say so as well. That they have people.
Most of their big guns, save for Dr. Kefala Mara, who was another big gun.
How about the Minister of Youth? Is he from
the Minister of Youth? Was on Koinadugu, but was not at polling center.
Okay, the question I want to ask quickly is about you saying the APC is trying to tint NEC somehow. But in your press release, you also mentioned issues about recruitment of officials by NEC. And it's the same NEC who recruited these officials who you're claiming are supporters or members of the APC. So are you also not saying that NEC has some credibility or integrity?
So that's why I'm telling you that it is for the credibility of the institution itself to come clean. That is why we too have raised the issue, so that at least they conduct an internal audit. We are calling for an internal audit so that NEC comes clean out of the whole process. That is what we are also claiming. Because as far as we are concerned, what they are saying is not correct. He knows that. They've lost the councillor elections, yet they were trying because they were there. These are their own boys who were recruited, and they were able to stuff ballot and also falsify figure, and that did not tally with the result NEC have. And it did not also reconcile with what we have. So if they are claiming this, that what they have did not reconcile with what NEC have, and it also does not reconcile with what we are now calling on NEC to conduct an internal audit into the process so that they come out clean into the entire process.
And now I struggle to process this, Leema. New is also alluding to some of those submissions by both the APC and the SLPP. But also I can recall a few days back we had a representative here talking about how they caught a NEC official inputting the wrong figures. And wrong here, there were instances when I think it was just maybe 46 and they input 146. Making it an excess of 100. And what the new representative said in the studio was, in all those instances, about 3 or so, when they caught those individuals, they were doing it in the favor of SLPP, not APC. How do you explain that, especially as you sit now to, at some point, try to justify the actions of
you would have,
NEC?
if I were you, I was going to require that individual to produce us the evidence. Because there's no way you're going to see somebody falsifying the favor of this particular person. You should have, of course we are living in the smart world now. You should have at least a video footage of what you were doing.
No, he mentioned it. He said the whole process was stopped and the individual was arrested, was handed over to the police.
But also we heard from the NEC official who said that it was only a breach in procedure, that the person did not do the correct thing. It was not a falsification. That was cleared by NEC, so because that is for NEC to clarify.
It was not one-off. A one-off, perhaps, the human mind could say it was just maybe an oversight, but it happened more than once. Well, so it leads to several questions. So to those people who have been accused of trying to manipulate the figures in the interest of the SLPP, did they do this in courts with the SLPP, or were they acting on their own?
So, well, I will not lend credence to that, nor will I justify that, because I have not seen any evidence. Even the APC claiming this, they have not produced us evidence, save for the fictitious figure they have that does not reconcile with what NEC have. And if you are claiming that NEC gave you a certain document that has slept with you 2 or 3 days, and you did not raise the issue at the material time, and after that, you've reconciled what you have, and what will give you winning is what you want to impose on NEC, and thereby subjecting them to blackmail. So I will not subscribe to whatever the individual is claiming until he shows me evidence. Then I'll be able to say, oh, I bow my head. I give them the credit. But I can't subscribe to whatever speculation somebody's making in the air. No.
Leema, I recall in 2018 when we had our general elections, some of you were on the media, from APC, SLPP on the media, talking about how the electioneering process was ongoing. And I recall there were instances where SLPP members had serious issues with the APC because they were ruling government then, having some officials who had no business being at polling centers going to those centers, and yet we see the same thing happening now. This is 2021.
That's not
government
correct.
Officials attending an electioneering
That is really not
process that they're not they were not supposed to be at.
That is misleading.
How so? Justify.
Fine. Every government official in this administration you see at polling, he has business to be there. He is accredited to be there. If he's not accredited to be there, he is not there. Now, when we talk of government...
Accredited in what capacity?
He's accredited by NEC as a member of a political party to be on the ground. Even me here, when I decided to go on the polling as, at the Tallying Center as a PRO, I went with my private vehicle, not government vehicle. Even though going with a private vehicle does not still impede my public functions when the need arises. Yeah. So I know for certain that if I'm going to act in the capacity as a party official, I know exactly where my role stops as a party official, and I know where my public duty comes in. So I'm very clear of that. So what I'm saying, this government has, since we've started all by-elections under this administration, there is no one moment except for rallies. Except for rallies. In fact, for rallies in Freetown here, even in Freetown here, it is very difficult for you to see government officials who are not tasked by the party to be on that ground. So we have done our best to really restrain ourselves from doing what we are criticizing.
Just a quick clarification, Leema. So if, for instance, in maybe coming elections, we see a situation where a sitting government official is present at a polling center and gives a justification that they're not there in their capacity as a government official, but in their capacity as polling agents for their political party. I'm saying now in this context, if it's not an SLPP member, would this be acceptable by your party? Let me be more specific.
If the government minister is not...
Let me be more specific. We know in Sierra Leone we have this battle exchange between APC and SLPP. If it comes a time when the APC is the ruling government and there is an election,
an old man.
And there is an election, whenever that is, and there is an election, and then you see a government official in the ruling party, APC, going to a polling center, and they say, oh, we're not here in our capacity as government official, but in our capacity as polling agent for the APC. Would that be acceptable by SLPP?
I can understand that with certain government offices, like the ministry where I work, the Ministry of Defense, Office of National Security. I can understand that because these are all part of, they are all election stakeholders. You understand? I can understand that.
No, that's not the question.
So the point is, away from that, I'm coming. I clearly get your question.
From what you said, that you were not there, and those other colleagues were not there in their capacities as government officials, but in their capacities as agents for the SLPP. So that's what led to me asking you now.
Which government official that was there as an agent of the SLPP?
I did not make the submission for you, sir. You made your submission.
We were talking about the...
You even mentioned that you went with your private vehicle, not even a government vehicle.
Mr. Ba asked me about the Secretary General in Kwenadugu, right? And also Mr. Amara Kalon in Kwenadugu. Now, let's understand clearly the office these people operate. Mr. Umaru Napoleon Nkrumah,
before you answer that, please answer the question.
That's what certain questions are answered when you analyze them. Then you are clearly able to understand the scenario. So, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Umaru Napoleon Nkrumah, who is the Deputy Minister of Justice, is the Secretary General of the party. And that is his home district. Mr. Amara Kalon is the Deputy Minister of Public Affairs. That is his home district. The Minister of Works, who has got no political relationship, was not on the ground. Yeah, even though that is
and the Minister of Youth and his deputy.
Yes. He was in an hotel. Save for the fact when Dr. Kalfala Mara went and stopped pulling for an hour.
Leema, I want to move to Sidi quickly, but I want to ask you this. You ask about evidence, and we just play a video which New are the observers of this election. They are independent institutions. You had that woman explaining where they allegedly someone was inputting numbers and the APC protested.
She was reporting on an issue that happened.
Exactly. So as a party, don't you think these are all legitimate issues, that these are concerns you should be worried about?
I didn't get you. That is why we have raised, that's why we've raised the issue. Now, what she was reporting was the same thing I have said. We went on the polling. The woman was reporting that because they were unable to complete the process in Kwenadugu.
She mentioned areas about the inputting issue Phoebe was asking about the APC.
That is what APC alleges, and that is what she was reporting.
And you think that didn't happen? You believe
for certain,
with an independent institution observing that and reporting
for certain, how independent would you want to determine them? They were there as observers. We sent our agents. Why would you want to credit their report over our agents?
No, I'm asking you, as a political party, you don't consider their report as an independent report?
It's their own observation. I will not discredit the observation, but similarly, I will also credit my own observer's report.
Okay. Sidi, quickly, in all of this, political parties are more interested about who wins and how the whole process went, not about the violence reported by New. Violence from both sides, issues of violence. You've not come out openly and
condemned
this is where I have concern. The issues of violence.
The violence was not on both sides. Violence
I'm saying what New said. Mr. Minister, I'm saying what New said. I'm asking from the reports of New.
Well,
they're accusing both political parties of causing violence.
I'll address that issue when you finish with him.
Look, we are concerned about everything that went on that had the tendency of, disrupting the whole elections process,
including the violence allegedly perpetrated by your members.
By all sides, if there is indeed evidence. I mean, we also heard in the report from New the contestant for the SLPP district council chairmanship, the candidate on polling day went to a polling station, assaulted a polling agent, a disabled polling agent. And he, in the first place, was not at any polling station. But he was there. I hope you give me
time to address some of those lies.
Listen, Leema, you spoke for almost 20 minutes. I did not interrupt you. For almost, he assaulted, a polling agent. And the issue about a polling station being opposite the AP, we do not.
And they also video evidence of your members attacking someone who they perceived was sent there by SLPP. There is also video evidence of that.
Look, Lamrana, any violence that happened in any election, we always condemn, including the Kwenadugu election. But for me, we have elections, and we have elections process. And in all of this, all of us, the players, the parties, the observers, the NEC, everybody was involved in making sure that the elections, proceed peacefully. And that is why, even in the report, New, NEC, political parties all agreed that for the most part, the elections went ahead peaceful and quiet. You understand? The whole issue came about when people started acting dishonest. And we have seen this pattern repeatedly. And that is why we are really disturbed. We saw it in Kamarimba. We saw it in 110.
Do you also, as a political party, want to take responsibility? Before the elections, New and PPRC did advise that people who are non-indigenous of these places should not go there. And you have senior party officials who were on ground.
We had senior party officials on the ground for our final rally to give support.
No, during polling day, Dr. Richard Conte was there.
our elections coordinator. That is why he was there. If you notice, Dr. Richard Conte has been in every by-elections that APC has had since 2018 because he coordinates our elections.
Okay.
And he's in charge of our tallying.
Okay.
That's why he's always accredited.
Isn't that what is creating tension? Having people who shouldn't be. We saw people who moved from McKinney. There are video evidences. You know, with social media now, you see people. We saw people who moved from McKinney coming into Kabbalah to, you know, creating tension.
And what was their involvement in the elections?
But even on polling day, if you have a group of supporters from a certain region entering into another place, it creates tension. And are you also not taking responsibility as an opposition party of all the tension within this election?
Look, there has been independent report in all of this, and we have to be very honest and sincere.
And the report did accuse some of your people and accuse
of
those
their
of the ruling
presence.
party. Exactly.
Yes, but not their involvement in any violence.
But their presence, that is what
the
I'm
report
asking.
even, let us not forget, the report even stated that there are instances wherein violence and tensions erupted. These same people you are mentioning from the APC are the ones that went and quelled those tensions and violence, you know, from escalating. So they were there as, you know, coordinators of our elections, and they ensured that peace reigned so that the elections process will go ahead. They were not accused of assaulting people. They were not accused of being involved in any violence. In fact, the report stated that they even quelled down, you know, the tensions and the violence that wanted to emerge. Look,
so
but let us
from the studio here right now, we would also coil down the tension.
Exactly.
Let's all take a moment to breathe in and breathe out as we take the Did You Know segment.
Did you know? Did you know that Africa is the second largest continent in the world, both in size and population? Did you know the sentence, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," uses every letter in the English language? Did you know chewing gum is banned in Singapore?
All right, welcome back. Did you know segment? We've got to learn a couple of things this morning.
Yeah.
Chewing gum banned in Singapore? Oh, really? I'll do.
Will you live there?
I'm not sure. You banned chewing gum. Right, coming back to the gentlemen in the studio, we're going to be taking some of the messages from our Facebook page. There are tons of messages, but out of curiosity, Tunis, it's quite interesting seeing the dynamics here right now, where the table is turned. All what you're having an issue with right now with the SLPP were things you did when you were in office. Is there a lesson learned? Because we see both of you, you know what's right from what's wrong when in opposition. The minute you take office, you seem to forget what's right from what's wrong. We see a recurrence of the same pattern. Seems like a never-ending circle.
Well, you see, this is where I have issues, you know, and this is really why probably we see continuous repeat of things, that the occurrences that we see now. I will not say that when the APC was in governance we were perfect, but there was never a time during APC that we saw any next staff during Tallying blatantly change figures on many occasions in favor of the APC. There was never a time during APC that the process was moved to free term and it was repeated, you know, and we just ignore. There was never a time during APC, during a by-election in the opposition stronghold, SLPP, you saw an APC candidate assault a polling agent. There was never a time during APC that you saw a minister in the full view of the police on polling day destroy ballot boxes, beat everybody in the polling station, in the full view of the police. None of those occurrences ever happened under the APC. And that is not
to say that under the APC things were bright and beautiful.
That is why I said we were not perfect. We had challenges, we had issues. But these occurrences that we are seeing when it comes to elections, we did not see those blatant.
Because it seems you're also not taking any form of responsibility in ensuring the peace, security, and stability of the country. Because when you were again in government, you knew what was right from what's wrong. Now that you're in opposition, you can't still seem to carry yourselves the way you were expecting SLPP to carry themselves as main opposition. So what difference does it make? Oh,
Fabian, if we were not taking responsibility, if we were not responsible enough as a political party in opposition, we would not have peace in this country by now. Yes, it is only because we are responsible that we have been able to restrain our supporters, even where they have been assaulted, and sometimes even where some have lost their lives. It is only because we are responsible that we have been able to restrain our supporters amidst the blatant irregularities and mismanagement we continue to see under this administration. It is only because we are responsible that we continue to call for peace and national cohesion, even at the detriment of our own membership and supporters. We have been responsible as a political party. That is why we have peace and quiet. And it is because we are responsible that we want to follow the process by making sure that NEC launders their image instead of being accused of blackmail. Nobody is blackmailing NEC. We are trying to help NEC to launder.
We need to take messages. We definitely need to take messages. Let's have you react to some of them, some of the concerns. And the same question is about taking responsibility. You see, it seems none of the parties want to take responsibility.
You see, when my brother sits here, he talks to somebody who understands the history of APC very well, and that history has not changed, and they have been so fixated in their patterns, even for the younger generation who didn't know APC before now, are now seeing what APC is, and he sits here saying things. I would still give credit to His Excellency, former President Anes Kroma, looking at these people and calling them
independent
and that is an exhibition of that.
Your ministers
now, when he talks, I'm coming, please.
Yes, let him make his.
I think not that I could not.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Minister.
When he made historical reference to how they have conducted themselves, there has not been time of this, time of that. Well, I'll give him few references. This is not to say that what he's saying perhaps is not partially correct, but he's correct for a reasons which I will state. Now, in Kailan, when we had Mami Dabo's by-elections, that one was the violence that was perpetrated on us was so massive, but the people were determined to resist their cause of actions. We won that elections under very difficult circumstances amidst the violence they perpetrated on our people when they were in power. And also when they were in power, he said there was not a time when a process has to be cancelled or referred back to Freetown. This is because we believe in democracy. We believe we go into the polls to allow the electoral officials to work. We respect security procedures, and we have not gone into the election theater with the thought of violence. And this is why when we conducted ourselves responsibly in all elections, if not, I mean, in most of the elections, if not all, in Western area and likely in part of the Northern Axis, even some areas in Kono, they were winning those elections, not because they had the number to win. It is because we are manipulating the system, which is so accustomed in their character and conduct. Please, Lamrana.
No, time is closing on us.
No, but I was giving a lot of time.
I know, because we also gave you time. We also gave you time.
Lamrana. Also, coming on the issue of Kwenadugu, right? He said they have never done this. Now, before I come to Kwenadugu, let me make reference to Bo. In Bo also, they took a lot of talks to their party office when President Bio was passing, and they had to perpetrate violence, you understand, and disrupted that rally, which led to the arrest of Honorable Rado Yoki. others.
If you can do this quickly, I want to ask a final question as we round up.
Before you ask the final question, in Koinadugu now, where he's talking, he said New made reference to beating a disabled. It's quite unfortunate. I've not seen that anyway, but it's unfortunate that New was able to pick on where a disabled was beaten, which I cannot even justify whether it was done by SLPP, but whether it's a cover-up for the failings of APC perpetrating violence on our people. When Captain SS Mara's house, there was a live firing exercise on, and also talks leaving Captain SS Mara's house to attack the house of the Honorable Paramount Chief. This is very unfortunate that you cannot capture this on their report.
Finally.
So this is why I discredit their standing, that perhaps their standing is coming as a result of certain interests they have that they want to protect.
Unfortunately, we've got a lot of messages, but because of time, we cannot read them. But finally, are you going to court?
That is not for me to say individually here.
That is what your party said.
We have written to NEC, and we are looking forward to what NEC will give to us, and then we'll go back as a party.
And if they don't address your concerns,
well, I will not say that as an individual.
Okay. Sidi, the APC, if your concerns are not addressed as well, you'll go to court?
I mean, we have already stated that. The evidences are clear, and, you know, they have been, you know, corroborated by news reports and other observers that were present.
Okay.
There were blatant changing of figures in favor of the SLPP.
He was talking of Dr. Richard Conte. I even forgot to mention that. Dr. Richard Conte has now become the chief coordinator of Leema. Because in Kailan, when we had that by-election, I forgot to mention that.
Is a very
when we went to Kailan, perpetrated violence in that election to the extent that
if I was the CEO of AYV, you would not have been here if you had not apologized to Marcella Samba.
No, you want me to mention that? That would not be very fine.
Gentlemen.
I can even say more than that.
Gentlemen.
So now you want to distract me. In Koinadugu, Dr. Richard Conte was in the APC office when they took talks in Koinadugu, and he was in that office.
Okay,
when he talks, we are giving
Richard Conte is a decent man. They never behave like a talk, like your ministers who are walking around with walkie-talkies and, you know, he's a very decent man.
We'll get to a point when this struggle will stop, Sierra Leoneans will enjoy their peace.
Oh yes, we are ready for that. We are ready for that.
We would not like to change the name we call you gentlemen.
We will endorse it.
We should also mention to the public that when these two gentlemen came to the studio this morning, they were actually laughing and playing together.
Yes, and
so it got me thinking. We saw them laughing and playing together.
Exactly.
They were even teasing each other before they came to sit
finally,
here.
we should also let the public know that we invited New. We are going to have
they will not come here.
NEC and New NEC as well, but unfortunately, they were unable to join us in the discussion. But thanks very much, Leema, Lawrence Leema, and thanks, Sidi Tunis, for joining us in the conversation. We're definitely looking forward to your next press releases on what's next action you'll be taking.
Well, we now take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be looking at more hot topics.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch me program them, but you not subscribe it to my channel. All what you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. So the bell option, press this one with all. And don't done. And not get for cost you anything. When you do this, now sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for your help me for share this program. Yeah! God bless you.
All right, now we're back with Wake Up Sierra Leone 2021 Recap Edition. This year we saw the emergence of Black Monday proclaimed by a group called the Consortium of Progressive Political Parties, CUP. We hosted the chair, Dr. Femi Claudius, who is also the 2018 presidential candidate for the Unity Party, alongside the Minister of Communications, Mohammed Rahman Swari. All I can say is it was a very hot topic and a very hot discussion in the studio on that day. So let's take a look at the highlight on November 23rd.
The theme of Black Monday was We Don't Gains. And we decided that how many options are available to us to communicate to the government that on behalf of the people, the bulk of the people, things are happening that we're extremely unhappy about. You can apply, which we will, apply to the police for a protest. The probability of that protest being approved is 0. And the disadvantages of things like that is they can quickly spiral out of control, where maybe young people or even old people or people with different grievances can join into a protest, where you end up with loss of life, loss of livelihood. So we decided those options were not healthy for even our democracy and for our people. We chose instead to declare a Black Monday. Black Monday is if you na one way don't gaze, you simply put on black. That way nobody's life is put at risk, but you're still making a statement. And we decided also that we in the consortium, we not put nobody in Peking before, we ourselves are going to deliver 2 letters. We are going to walk from a party office to deliver 2 letters. I think in total we were probably about 14 or 15 of us, dressed in black, and we'll deliver these letters. A letter to the Minister of Justice and copied to the Chief Justice, where we itemized the reason why we say we don't gaze, to highlight to them that as the Minister of Justice, you're the protector of the Constitution. So it was a case of symbolism. And you saw what the approach and the way and manner how, and the reason why such symbolism is important is because there's a risk. There's a huge risk right now of us slowly, gradually sliding into a one-party state, but more concerning, a police state, and even more scary, a dictatorship. And as responsible opposition, we cannot sit by and watch all these things play out and say nothing. Because even when we went to Parliament, parliamentarians on the SLPP side were basically saying, well, what you don't do? Una go court, una not go court. So there comes a point where we have to take a stand. And this was just our first attempt to highlight the issues. It was put together at very, very short notice, but it wasn't scoring points. It was making a point that we are concerned, we are worried, we're heading down a very slippery slope where there's no rule of law, there's no respect for the Constitution, and we as responsible oppositions will not continue to let it slide. We will make a stand. And we're actually proposing having a Black Monday at the first Monday of every month. This time, a lot of people didn't know about it, didn't hear about it, so I think we should spread the word a little wider, and then we can begin to see. That could be a good barometer. Maybe they would listen
I'm curious to ask this question. The fact that you just mentioned it's not a way of scoring political goals. Is it a way of nicely starting the campaign to kick SLPP out of power come 2023? I mean by opposition parties.
It is a way of the SLPP realizing that they are not going to have it all their way table, that there is a voice of dissent, and we will dissent as much as you will try to close us down. How that plays out for the SLPP is left to them. They claim to be a listening government. They claim to be a government that gives information, that responds to information. So are they listening? If they are listening, then there are many areas that they can rectify it. But we're worried, we're scared. The people are also fed up. And we cannot just sit by and sit on our hands as opposition and watch our Constitution being railroaded. We watch people being killed. And we watch our democracy being, I mean, it was clear on the video where the police were actually angry, aggressive, because we were wearing black. I'm like, is there something in the Constitution that says we have to be color-coded? Perhaps if we were in green, they would not have assaulted us and, you know, harassed us the way they did. But no, we have to take a stand. There comes a point where we have to take a stand. We cannot allow it to continue in this trajectory. It is worrisome. It is scary. Our judiciary is, I don't know. It seems to be almost like a skeleton in a closet.
Now, one could argue that, you know, as opposition parties, not to oversimplify the role of opposition parties, but basically your role is to oppose, as the word implies. And so no matter what the government does, you simply just oppose. So on what grounds are you making these claims, talking about the Constitution and other instances of, you know, not abiding by the rule of law?
Well, that's why I insert the word. There are many other political parties that are in opposition who, you know, who are very much in step and in tandem with the SLPP. But I then add the word responsible. So if something is being done well, you do not and will not hear the opposition opposing for the sake of opposing. Where we come in and where our voices need to be heard is when there are missteps. And
so what are some of these missteps?
Okay, well, let's start with the hot topic of the day. Let us talk about the suspension of the Auditor General, where if they are really listening, the voices, experienced lawyers, some are resigning, some are coming out with statements to say, this is not the order in which things should be done. And even my good friend here, the Minister of Information, when asked by the BBC, was simply spinning around the question and could not really answer. And we're all worried. Why on earth so close to the publication of the country's finances? This now we balance sheet. How have you spent our money? Have you obeyed the rules? Have you sidestepped the rules? And then she is suspended indefinitely. This is the woman who you were praising just yesterday. That
you would have your time.
This is a woman who had shown her integrity. And this is a government supposedly empowering women.
But is it wrong to institute administrative, investigation into the conduct of public servants?
No, it isn't wrong for as long as you follow the laid down principles, the laid down criteria. You cannot execute a man and then have his trial after his execution and say that is justice. Let's just touch on that. Then let us go to Kamarimba's case, which was included in our case of our protest, our march to deliver our letters. There were like 15 of us. There were police that outnumbered us, I think, 25 to 1, yelling and screaming at us because A, we were in black, and B, we were delivering a letter. I said, there is no band, there is no music, there is nothing, there are no banners. We're walking in the streets of Freetown to deliver a letter. And that got them so uncomfortable. And yet we saw in Kono, they brought out the whole city. And there was not a pip squeak about the dangers of such a crowd. And I so appreciate the children for making their voices heard in that particular forum.
All right. Let's bring in the Minister of Information just quickly. I mean,
she spoke close to 15 minutes.
There are a lot of
well, you know, so you are craving for equality.
I can guarantee you she did not speak up to 15 minutes.
So let's get it clear. She has literally said that your government is killing democracy, and you're slowly becoming a dictatorial, regime. And these are grave concerns if Sierra Leone should develop. First, let's have your take on that. No. Killing democracy, killing the rule of law.
No. So first, I'm not talking to COP. I'm having a conversation with AYV.
Let's go ahead.
Right?
With the people.
Fair enough.
With the people of Sierra Leone.
Fair enough.
I don't know where COP is recognized, so I don't want to recognize an outfit that is controversial by its very nature. So I'm going to speak to the issues Femi has raised, because these issues are germane to the sustenance of our democracy. She has made quite very loose, gaseous allegations about the state of health of our democracy. You know, I particularly like the theme of yesterday's Black Monday, which has been trailed for the last 1 week or so on social media. You know, so the poor attendance calling on Sierra Leoneans to wear black and nobody literally did is to tell you that the people that don't gain opposition antics. They want you to be partners in nation building. They don't like the opposition being obstructive, you know, and making noise even when you don't require it, or you should be cheering. So the people that don't gain, now they don't support one. But I think that was a more decorous approach than previously when you went to State House and insisted on crashing to deliver a letter to His Excellency. I'd like to congratulate you for that. Yesterday was more decorous. 15 people, you know, no, not as rowdy as previously. So that is number one thing. So the people that don't gain opposition, when they make constructive criticism, even when government does things right, you know, not make nobody know whether on a black, on a choose for on a 15 where and go. And that's okay. I mean, democracy is about listening to dissenting views as well. So what's the state of health of our democracy? This democracy is alive, is well, thriving and kicking. We all realize, I mean, by and large, this is a nascent democracy. It has its own challenges. But this is a democracy where just a few weeks ago, His Excellency has abolished the death penalty. Successive governments have used that over the years to kill some of the most illustrious sons of the soil. This is this democracy that they say is problematic. The people she is working in cohort with, the APC, which many say is now their paymaster, but again, these are allegations. I cannot verify it. Remember, she said some of the opposition parties are very cozy with the SLPP. Some opposition parties, which are really literally empty shells, which are latching on to this coalition, right? Some of them, for all you care, might be getting, you know, handouts from chairman leader for life. You never know. But that's another matter for some day. So you are talking about a democracy where a 55-year-old criminal libel law has been repealed, right? There is no journalist standing trial. There is no journalist in jail on account of the practice of their profession. This is this democracy that Femi has condemned to death. But, you know, when you are opposition, you don't just oppose everything. In the UK and other parts of the world, they have what they call Her Excellency's loyal opposition. Yeah, you are loyal to.
I'm tempted to draw you to the issues Femi has raised. One, the issue of the Auditor General. And two,
that was at the tail end of her presentation. You are not going to stampede me out of this conversation. Let me.
I am merely trying to draw you to the issues which
I took notes. Just be patient with me, and I will appreciate not being interrupted like she was not, so that I can
We have to moderate the program. I was in the same way drawing her attention to speak to the issues.
Samuel, please. I mean, I like this program decorous. I mean, I listened to Femi uninterrupted for all that she ranted.
We'll definitely have to keep you on track. Go ahead.
No. I'm off of that. I have not gone out of track. She has said the democracy is dying.
Continue.
You cannot have a dying democracy where they are repealing some of the most obnoxious, repressive, and anachronistic laws. That's what I'm saying. Right? You have had that done under this administration. Right? You have no political prisoners in jail anywhere. But this is a law and order society. This is a rule-based society. When people come in conflict with the law will bite them heavily, you know, as per law prescribed. So this is something we cannot take away from the law. So she has mentioned the suspension of the Auditor General. I mean, I have been an administrator at very senior levels in all the places where I've worked. I mean, suspensions are provided for. In the first place, on a normal day, I would say it's a misnomer that you have the JLSC, Judicial Legal Service Commission, having to decide something that has to do with the Auditor General. You know, it happens so in the case of judges, because judges are by their very nature part of the judiciary. They are recruited by the GLSC. Their promotion, transfer, and other recommendations come from the JLSC. So you can understand that. It's a little strange that you have to go to same with the Auditor General. But this is a rule-based society. Suspensions do not happen for nothing. Any place where that happens is to ensure that nobody tinkers with the evidence, nobody meddles with it, nobody tampers with it, right? So, but we are saying the spirit and intent of the law is to ensure that people are not arbitrarily removed from their posts to fulfill and satisfy somebody's whims and caprices. So that is why the matter was duly referred to the JLSC. The JLSC made a representation to His Excellency. A three-person tribunal has been set up, and we are merely saying Lara and Co. can have their day before the tribunal and be sure they'll be treated very fairly. I mean, this is the point we are saying. But where there have been persistent leaks of otherwise classified information attributable to the audit service, where the audit service will recognize the very important role that the audit service plays in national development, but they are also not above due process, right? So
just quickly on that, Femi mentioned that she agrees that the president should suspend the Auditor General as provided for in the law, but the procedure was wrong. So, for example, legal opinions have made it clear.
They have varied. You know, you have Gabidon here. They have varied. They have not made it any clear.
So what they've submitted is that the Judicial and Legal Service Commission has to initiate a complaint to the president, and the president has to set up a tribunal, and that tribunal then has to recommend
Samuel, remember I'm not a lawyer, but I'm smart.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I spoke about the spirit and intent of the whole thing.
Right.
Was to ensure that people are not arbitrarily removed from their post, people are not deprived of the right of a fair hearing, and all of those things. We want to assure you this. We want to assure you this. I mean, you saw we presided over the commissions of inquiry here. I mean, there were grave fears even before the commissions commenced, right? Some of the most controversial people were let off the hook. They were acquitted and discharged for want of evidence. So the same thing will happen in this case. We have no interest in manipulating the three-person tribunal. In fact, these are juries who have made a reputation for themselves, and I'm sure this is an acid test for them to defend their hard-won reputations.
Again, that has been questioned. Forgive me.
Yeah,
the two persons out of the three appointed to serve in the tribunal, two directly works, for example, with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Should I say by extension, the government of Sierra Leone? So they've been questioned already whether or not, I mean, the hearing or the process is going to be fair.
Okay, so let us put it this way, right? In this country, I know if they don't have anything to say about you, they will say you are the son of your mother, which is quite obviously fact. Everybody is, you know, is a son or daughter of their mother, right? So they will say that. I'm aware that Farmer, one of the people, like Farmer brought on the three-person tribunal, is a consultant. A consulting relationship is not a normal employer-employee relationship, right? And you saw how he led with the commissions. He was part of the commissions, and the commissions ended up being fair, acquitting and discharging people, right? You know, people have tried to ethnicize it, right? But one of those people who had mountains of allegations against her and who was set free by the previous commissions of inquiry was Sylvia Olayinka Blyden. She's Creole, she's a woman. I saw the press release from the Creole Descendants Union, right? So as long as you have your case clear, nobody is on an ethno-regional hunt. The case is going to be on its merit, right? So that's it for Farmer. The other person you talk about, in fact, the relationship they tried to establish with what's the farm again? The Brewer Law Farm.
Yes.
It's very, very tenuous. I understand this was a long-standing relationship, you know, that exists no more. So again, it's quick we make these allegations on social media without verifying them. I spoke to the AG before I got here. So those
we'll
allegations have no
conversation here for now.
This is Mohamed Kamarimba who was in detention on grounds of sexual penetration?
Yes.
Okay. So I understand, I follow that matter very keenly. I mean, the court granted him bail. I mean, so I understand he has continued to stay in Gao because he has not been able to fulfill bail conditions, right? And in any case, I am part of the executive. That is part of the judiciary. And we have promised and committed to not interfering with due process. The judiciary is separate and apart from the executive. I mean, that is the beauty of a democracy. Separation of powers, checks and balances.
All right. So there are many issues which, you know, the minister has spoken to. And it seems on their part, they're satisfied with the way governance is going, contrary to the opinion and claims made by COP. You are hoping that they would listen, and you've presented your letter to the Attorney General. Why the Attorney General?
He is in charge of our constitution. He is the watchdog. He's the head of the judiciary, basically. And just to bring you back, the minister and the Chief Justice, they both got letters. I bring you back to the minister. The minister actually gave you zero information, by the way. Even on the topic of Lara, he spent quite a bit of time praising COP, because that's all I will say, and making unfounded allegations that COP is being funded. COP is actually for clarification. And I stand on my integrity. Has not been funded by any chairman and leader. You can question my integrity. Time will prove whether I am or not. But we are now talking about what the SLPP government is doing in real time. When it is convenient for the Minister of Information to come on a program and give us information, don't give us spin. Kamarimba has met his bail condition. If he hasn't, which has he not met? You are here talking to the people. Don't talk to COP. You don't recognize COP. COP was not soliciting his resignation. So if Kamarimba has met,
I understand.
He has met.
Not stricto sensu.
No, but before you come on the media to challenge your own government's position, you have to come and
you make all these loose allegations here. You are asking people to script, Femi?
The Kamarimba has met, he has met his bail conditions. They then added a proviso. Maybe I can now give the Minister of Information some information that alleging that he was an American citizen. I think they have proved beyond all reasonable doubt that he is not. They then called for his passport. The man gave them his passport, which he has used to travel one time to Guinea. They said, why is it a new passport? He said, my passport was burnt in my house and they asked now for the police report. Now, on this issue, we have not sat idly by. I, myself, and Dr. Bright, we went and spoke with the Chief Justice. We said, if a bail, explain to us why he has not been granted even after bail has been given. So they were saying about a police report. Now, he may not be a lawyer, and neither am I. But I do know that if the judge needs a document from the police, it is not the family that should go and get that information. He subpoenas that information. He sends them a letter. Give me the police report to prove that this man's house is burnt. But let me say something that shows you that it is not, Kamarimba is not now being incarcerated because of sexual penetration per se. He is being incarcerated because he's an opposition leader. That can only be deduced. I got a call from Kailaon, a case of sexual penetration of a young child. I think she was 8. Can I tell you? The mother called me. I have no idea where she got my number. She called me sobbing that, look, the one left this man. I made a few calls to say, investigate. Why would a case of sexual penetration of an 8-year-old, you want to release the perpetrator? He was then held and supposed to be charged. As we speak, he's out on bail.
Can I ask you this question? The minister said, there's separation of powers, so they cannot go into the work of the judiciary. That's an independent arm of government. But now, if you are saying Kamarimba is being held on political grounds, so
I am alleging.
Oh, okay. As you are alleging that Kamarimba is being held on political grounds,
yes.
Are you saying the judiciary is being politically influenced by the executive?
Samuel, the unseen hand in the judiciary, it is so clear that even a 2-year-old can be able to tell you that there is executive influence in the judiciary. The Minister of Information will not want me to say it. We saw it in their honeymoon period. Their honeymoon period, where the Constitution says, in the case where you're going to remove these MPs, there should be a by-election. Instead, with the assistance of the judiciary, they simply picked their own people and put them back in there. They appointed.
What they did, the executive.
The SLPP
it's difficult to have an elevated conversation with Femi.
No, because I'm speaking on the issues. I'm not going to
elevated conversation with her. She is making sweeping, wild generalizations all over the place that she cannot substantiate.
But these,
so this is making this conversation
these claims
difficult.
Are not only coming now, especially when successive governments have always been accused of influencing the judiciary.
Well, you have to show me the smoking gun in this instance. Nobody has produced a smoking gun.
Let's just use the MPs as a smoking gun.
The judiciary, in their wisdom, because, you know, I have mentioned stricto sensu, the judiciary is separate, independent, and apart from the other organs of government.
Is it in practice or in paper?
It's in practice. You have to show me evidence that is not the case.
Then would the opposition parties be right to say the government of the day is not following the due process of the law, it's not abiding by the rule of law, wherein taking the case of the MPs, where the Constitution states one thing, the law states one thing, but the action of the judiciary is contrary to law?
Well, so the judiciary has stood by that position. They say they did the right and property in the circumstance.
But you have a written law, you have the legislation which dictates how processes should be followed.
It will be interesting to have that conversation with the judiciary, right? We are in the executive. We also took our grievances to the same judiciary. In some of the instances, they turned our matters down. We lost those cases. About 31 cases we brought up, election petition cases in the northern province. We lost all of them. We brought some over here, some in Freetown. Our members lost them, including one by the nephew of His Excellency the President. That is not a judiciary that counsels to the whims and caprices of a ruling government. Except if you know something else that the public does not know.
I would love to ask the minister, is there a report on the killings in Pademba Road? Has there been an investigation? Have they published a report? The killing of the driver, whose boss was held in CID for overnight. Has there been a report published?
So you want to take over the interview now?
No,
I'm not going to let you take over the interview.
I'm sorry, please forgive me, Samuel.
AYV. This is how, this is, you know, Femi is very, very notorious for this, eh? Her deputy resigned. Her deputy resigned for bad governance. You know, Nasu Fofana was her deputy. Yeah, well, this was public. Her resignation letter was published. You know, in these matters, there has to be decorum. You and I are interviewees here. Let us listen to the interviewers.
All right.
Now, well.
I know.
Very interesting.
You know, politicians, when they are here, how they get to be fighting on issues, and when they go out, how they, you know, they talk nice to themselves is interesting.
You know, they even go out as far. For us in the studio, once the curtain rolls down on the program, or we take a break or something is on, you see them, they continue. But me, man, this thing where they talk, so if yourself not say, hey, but forget it. They're like that. And by the time they're walking out of their seats towards the exit, they would either shake hands. Okay, but we'll see, we'll take care later. Like, that's what it is.
I know. Everyone is just passionate about getting things done, you know.
Right.
That's about it.
We disagree to agree.
Yeah.
As long as it's not physical and it's in the interest of adding diverse opinion and views to governance and other developmental issues, then it's welcomed. It's a win. Yeah. At least it's part of democracy. We disagree. It's fine, but limitations